You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Solus, and on today's episode, we are catching up from 9 days without really a news-related podcast. As y'all know, episode 50, many of you tuned in and listened. It was our 1-year anniversary. We had special guest and friend Conniff on, and we talked all things Supervision, Beyond the Verse podcast, my history, their history, and where we're headed for this next year. So we didn't really get into the news, but after last Wednesday, there was so much that dropped. So on this week of Beyond the Verse Star Citizen podcast, we're going back to last Wednesday, and we're going to be covering Stella Fortuna, the banner design contest, Squadron 42 monthly report, the Inside Star Citizen character customizer. We're going to quickly go over the letter from the chairman, which had some gold nugget drops there, Star Citizen 1.0, maybe soon, trademark. XenoThreat Phase 1, the Q&A based around Overdrive initiative, the surprise release of the F7C Hornet Mark II, which has the potential of upgrading to the F7 Alpha at the end of this event, Star Citizen Live, FPS combat, and then finally we get into this week of Beyond the Verse, where we'll go through 323 being tested in the EPTU. We have Loremakers community questions. We have the roadmap roundup, and then we will end with Inside Star Citizens to and fro with cargo, which is a phenomenal 15-minute video on the future of 323, and perhaps one of the best quality of life upgrades. I mean, hell, it's not even quality of life. It might be a game loop in and of itself of managing your own hangar, your own cargo. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that with you today. But first, we do have a couple of questions that kind of snuck through at the end of last week. Remember, I asked the community if you have questions, comments, anything that you wanted to ask me or Conniff, and we did. We had a question that sneaked in from Authy Gamer. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I can find her without, there we go. Boom. Here we go. The question from Authentic Young, and if y'all remember, she was on one of our episodes a long time ago. We need to have her back. She's currently in a hiatus from playing Star Citizen, but again, she says that she'll be back around summertime. Looking forward to it. But the question is, do you play Star Citizen? If you do, what do you pilot? Okay. So basically, I'm on the phone, but I'll ask you, do you play Star Citizen? If you do, what do you pilot? So, the question there around the spirit of, I guess, like, what do I like flying the most? And just quickly, I actually don't have a problem with Drake. I know that's like a huge deal and everybody's going to react to that. I have other things I'd rather fly. But I actually don't mind Drake. I love the Vulture. That is a very good, I would say, all around, but clearly you're not going to go into combat with a Vulture. But that's one of my favorite ships to just get out, veg out, and have a good half an hour to an hour loop. So I really love the Vulture for its own game loop. It's got a bed. It's got, everything that you'd want in just a quick little hop, skip, and away. However, if I'm going to choose an everydayer, that is, I just talked to my org about this yesterday. If I'm going to have an everydayer, I'm still trying to land the plane or land the ship. Sorry for the pun. But it's probably going to be something Origin. It's probably going to be like a 325 Alpha that has a bed. It needs to have a bed, because I need to be able to bed log in space or just wherever. It's part of my RP fascination with this game. It's got to be able to survive in a combat situation. So the 325 Alpha, but so can the 400i, so can the 600i if you keep your distance. I'm just all over the place. I am all over the place. And I was kind of hoping I need to have a ship like the F7C Hornet Mark II. It just needs a freaking bed. Because there's nothing worse than like going and doing a bounty and you end your bounty. You're like, man, this is really nice. I kind of just want to land the plane wherever I am, bed out, and play again the next day or the next week and be where you left off. But you kind of have to fly back to an orbital station in order to complete that game loop. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough question for me, and it shouldn't be. I think we all know my favorite vendor, my favorite merchant is Origin. But I can't decide on my everydayer. So there you go. We also had an email come through, and I'm kind of doing this live. I did not have it pulled up. Here we go. Yeah, so this was this came like Monday the 18th, so about 4 days ago. Hey Solus, coming from TikTok at Beyond the Verse, love this. Do me a huge favor and email me this question. Oh, this is what I asked him. So they asked a question on my TikTok, and I asked them like, hey, email this to me so I can address it during the call. So here we go. From Weekly Citizen, all over the place, guys. From Weekly Citizen, quote, I would like to hear your opinion on the upcoming change regarding away from realistic gameplay, especially number 1, reloading from backpack, number 2, kill marker, number 3, sniper lens glare, number 4, master modes while flying. I haven't quite made up my mind yet. The flight master modes are fine for me, but I think stuff like lens glare is a shame, especially when it comes to bounty hunting aspect. It kind of ruins that feeling. Thanks for your effort and have a nice week. Okay, so I want to first address like realistic gameplay. There is no other person that I know that is a more loud person when it comes to reality. Like, I want reality in my games. I want it to be a true simulation, and that's really hard to say when you're talking about a space game and flying and doing everything else. It's not realistic in any stretch of the imagination. However, my point being is if it exists in 2024 in real life, it needs to at least exist in 2954. So, like, sniper lens glare. Today in the military, and I'm going to go back to my time, I think the last day of my service was 10 years, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. So it's been over a decade. It's been over a decade since I've last served. And even back then, on our sights, on our rifle, we had like a honeycomb attachment. So you would take this, like, it says netting. It's not netting. It's actually like plastic. But you'd screw it on the front post of your sights. And it's called honeycomb because of the way the pattern looks, but it distorts any sort of lens flare. You can still see through your scope, but you can't see any lens flare downrange. So if that's the case in 2024, it should not exist in 2954. We should not have lens flare. So that's my response to that one specifically. But reloading from backpack, this one I addressed a couple episodes ago. So it depends on what backpack you're talking about. Because if you have like a 3-day pack, or if you have an assault pack, an assault pack is what you need on the objective. A 3-day pack is usually what we carry. And you would say like a 10-day or 15-day pack, your rucksack is really, you wouldn't have anything on the outside of your rucksack. But on your assault pack, you would have extra attachments for chem lights, magazines, you name it. Everybody's outfit was a little different. But in your assault pack, yeah, you absolutely would have something along those lines. And when I look at Star Citizen, I would say that those packs that you see on their backs, it's probably a cross between an assault pack and a 3-day pack. So if we go in that direction of it being an assault pack, I don't mind reloading from backpack. I don't mind at all. It should take a little bit longer though, and I think that's realistic. I think it is realistic for them to say, look, if you're going to reload from a magazine that's inside of your pack, it's going to be twice or 3 times as long. Absolutely. That is realistic. But the ammunition, that's just a quality of life thing, right? This idea that you can consolidate your rounds within magazines, that's just to make your life easier as a gamer. I do think that is an appropriate break from reality, because there's some things that's just not aesthetically pleasing. It ruins the flow of the gameplay, and that barrier, that interruption can be problematic, right? And what you're trying to accomplish. So we talked reloading from backpack. We talked sniper lens glare. Let's talk kill markers. I'm actually okay with this too. So current day, again, 12 years ago in the military, we have blue force tracking. We had infrared where you could lace a target. So lacing means, you would have a heat signature, and you were able to identify that heat signature, and it would record into your system. Like, we'll call it a HUD. We'll call it a HUD visor. But you would be able to identify heat signatures as being a friendly or a foe. Blue Force Tracker was more vehicle related. You could see on your screen in your vehicle like where the friendly targets were, or where the friendly assets were, and where your enemy targets were. So that should exist. So I think the kill marker, I don't know, you should have to deploy it. And I think this is where Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I think, does it really well, but you should have to deploy a drone. So if you're coming up on a bunker, or let's say a derelict site, you should be able to deploy a drone, or have somebody up in space in orbit, like maybe a Carrack with drone operators, and you should be able to lace the ground that you're about to assault, and that should communicate to your HUD. I feel like that's realistic as well, but that one's kind of, I don't know. I'm okay with kill markers as well, if it makes sense. Now, if you're in an urban environment and there's no way a drone could go and identify targets, I don't know. You should be able to turn that off in certain situations to make it even more tough. So like if you go down inside of a UGF and it's a hostile UGF, underground facility, maybe you don't have the ability to have a kill marker or identify friendly from foe. And I think that's a level of difficulty that should exist, right, in a simulation. But outside derelict site, outside in a bunker, or at least outside the bunker, any walls that you could infrared through to see heat signatures, by all means, let's make them kill markers. Cool. And then master modes while flying. I'm still not ready to address master modes. I'm not ready yet. I'm still doing research, and I hope you can appreciate that as a listener. There's several different opinions out there where, like, right now it's tough, right? Combat is tough, aerial combat. So PvP up in space, I suck at it. I'll be the first to admit I suck at it, and there's people that would agree with me. I am horrible at aerial combat, but there are those that are just freaking masters at it, and it took them 11 years to get there, right? So there's this pride of it being difficult and having mastered such a difficult system like Star Citizen aerial combat. That's not scalable, and that's where I think that's where people are going to get either upset with my feedback, or they're going to agree with my feedback. Is that right there? It's not scalable. It's not sustainable. You're going to have like a sweaty few that are just freaking phenomenal, and you're going to have 98% of the community that just can't get it, right? And they're going to start doing other things. They're going to avoid pyro. They're going to stay away from areas because they just can't master the mode of flying. And so master mode is kind of seen as this like simplification, right? Like nerfing. A lot of games, they call it nerfing. It's like a simplification of the system of flying. I personally like the new mode. It does look arcadish. It does have some traits that that look like they're from 5-10 years ago. So I think there's some user interface opportunities to mold it and make it, right. But as far as laying the playing field, right, leveling the playing field, I think it's the right answer. There just needs to be a good middle ground. So I hope that addresses your questions, Weekly Citizen. Your questions on TikTok were amazing, and I just wanted to make sure that I dedicated time to address them. Okay, we got to go. We got some work to do. There's, again, 9 days worth of information to cover. So usually I go through like a Q&A, and usually I go through a poll. I'm going to just go right through this, and then next week we'll pick up again on the Q&A. Actually, no. So heads up. PSA. Next week I'm out of town. I'm out of town for work. I'll be in Seattle, Washington. So unfortunately, probably not an Org Night episode. And if I do get to episode 52, it's probably going to be like Friday night, if not Saturday. And even then, it's my kid's birthday celebration on Saturday. So you're probably not going to get episode 52 until 2 weeks from now. All right. Let's get to the show notes. Sharing my screen for those of you on YouTube. We're going to go in sequential order, right? We're going to go all the way back to Wednesday and discuss Stella Fortuna. I had this master plan of how I was going to lay out the agenda to, the most important up front, the kind of mediocre in the middle, and the second most important at the very end. No, I'm just going to go sequential order. You heard the agenda at the top of the podcast, so let's get into it. Stella Fortuna is the St. Patrick's Day event. We have talked about it earlier on a couple episodes ago, maybe episode 49, but it was in reference to 2023's Stella Fortuna. So here is 2024 Risky Business to the article. This time of year, from Banshee to Horus, you can feel a manic tension creep across the verse. Trigger fingers start getting itchy, credits begin igniting fires within pockets, and every risk-taker, daredevil, and intrepid adventurer the galaxy over feels the urge to put it all on the line. Stella Fortuna is upon us once more. Take your chance, make your mark. What have you got to lose? There's a cool little video. I'm going to go and hit play and let you all watch it.
And needless to say, they never let me dock at that station again.
Kid, that story gets worse every time you tell it.
Cat dragged in.
I ever tell you about that job I did on Demian back in 48?
Only about 1,000 times. But if you want to talk about danger, what about the time I hit the gap at Yada?
That's nothing.
You kids wouldn't know real danger if it shot you between the eyes.
You guys already forgot about the pyro incident? I cleaned up on that job.
Yeah. You both got lucky.
Maybe, but what about you, old-timer? You feeling lucky right now?
Luck's got nothing to do with it.
Guess we'll see.
Yeehaw.
And of course, the video ends with the Idris, I'm assuming from XenoThreat, but the Idris right after, which is an amazing. God, I can't wait for phase 2. We'll get into that here in a couple minutes. Good little video. And so this is going to go through some of the ships that are available in Stella Fortuna. There were limited edition packs, which I'm pretty sure there's still quantity available. So you can debate what the term limited means. So the additional ships that are now part of that Stella Fortuna pack, you're going to see demonstrated or on showcase here. So Defy the Odds. This is the Razor. So defy the odds, take control of the versus fastest ships, and see how you stack up against the system's top racers. Think you can hang with the best. We'll see you on the track. And then it gets into combat, using the Fury as an example. That's the MX. You can see the blast shield in front of the cockpit. To the article, duke it out. Get behind the stick of a true bruiser and test your mettle against like-minded psychos, probably in the galaxy looking to pick a fight. Green Machines. The Fury, Razor, and the mighty Hercules go green this year, joining the likes of the Mercury, the 400i, the 600i, Hammerhead, Vanguard, and Redeemer, enveloped by the luck of the season in a sparkling emerald Fortuna paint scheme. And this paint is beautiful. It's not really like a camouflage OD green. Like think of that type of green, just metallic. So it's not like dull, it's not camouflage. It's that very like, it's metallic, it's shiny, right? But they do a really good job making it an actual pattern. So like the the Fury has a really good pattern on it. It's not just a flat green. But I think it looks great. It looks great in the verse. It looks great in refractions. It's really great. All right, the Team Green. Like with many events up to this point in the last couple of months, what they're doing is incorporating Arena Commander a lot more. So this is the coin gift or reward for Arena Commander. To the article, the Green Team. Get your Arena Commander crew together for a little Stella Fortuna themed team elimination. Punks can find out once and for all if they truly feel lucky, and the top player of the winning team will earn a special Stella Fortuna 54 coin. What I'll tell you right now is 2 org nights ago, we didn't record it, we didn't make a podcast of it, but 2 weeks ago, we did get into Arena Commander. We had a few that won, like this team elimination, and they haven't received their coin yet. So I don't know if it's like at the end of the event it'll hit your hangar, or if there's some discrepancy on when you get credit for completing this team elimination in Arena Commander. Just reporting the news. I need to do some research to figure out like where those are at, if they're coming later or not. More to come. All right, community contest. This spirited community contest challenges you to create a banner or pennant supporting your favorite team, be that literal or figurative, in the arenas of combat and racing. The top banner in each category will win appropriate prizes, with a third wildcard award going to the banner maker, good lord, that employs the most fate-defying use of materials in their design. We do have a couple of individuals in Sole Provision that is making a Sole Provision banner, and it looks amazing. I think it should win. Of course, I'm biased, of course. But this is a really fun idea. So you can see this screenshot if you're watching the video. But essentially, they're at like a Daymar race. I think that's the Daymar race, and there's like a banner hanging from one of the rafters. And so, you want to take a screenshot that's like out in the verse, and then you want to digitally hang. So you gotta have Photoshop skills. But you want to hang it somewhere, place it on a wall inside of a hangar, maybe. But some really cool ideas. I can't wait to see what the community produces there. Here's the limited time Fortuna paints. They're usually $5 for small ships and $15 for large, but here's a Hercules for $13. So they're not as expensive as what I recall. So you've got like the Fortuna paints, for the Furies, $5, Hercules $13, Razors $9. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. Here's the Hammerhead for $19, right? So if you don't want to get the pack and you already have these ships, and like the Mercury Star Runner's green and gray looks amazing to you, which it does to me, you can just pick up the paints. And here's your Fortuna packs. So the ship packs is like a starter. Do I want to call it starter? It's not really like a starter. So this first one, it's Warbond. You're going to start with a Titan and a couple of weapon systems. So I guess that could be considered a starter. But then you've got the Fortuna Racing pack, which is $550 on Warbond. And here is your stock limited ships. Right, we have one that's sold out. So the regular Fortuna Legends pack for $500, that is sold out. But the rest of these still have quantity. So you have a Fortuna's Legends pack, the Warbond, it's $440. They still have availability. And then if you're concierge, you've got the Fortuna Ultimate Party Pack, $29.54, and it's a ridiculous price. So Warbond is just under $3,000. And the regular is $3,350. What are you getting for that? Let's take a look. So new for this year, like we said, you're going to get the Fury, Razor, and Hercules. Beyond that, you'll get last year's. So the Phoenix Emerald, which is highly, it is the reason to get this pack in my opinion, but it's a very, very limited hull ship. This is the only way you can get it. You got the Ursa Rover Fortuna, Mercury Star Runner, the P-72 Archimedes Emerald, the 400i, the 600i, the Cyclone MT, the Hammerhead, it's a $700 ship alone, Redeemer, and the Vanguard Hoplite. Now, I have said before, and I'll say again, this is probably one of the best packs. You're getting more than 10 ships, all with lifetime insurance, and if you don't like one, you can use that to upgrade to another ship and transfer that lifetime insurance too. So if you don't like that Vanguard Hoplite, you can melt it, or you can't melt it, you can upgrade it to a ship that you do like. I believe this is what I upgraded to the Eclipse. Much rather fly the reconnaissance surveillance bomber of the Aegis Eclipse than have the Vanguard Hoplite, and I believe that's the ship that I upgraded from. So there you go. It also includes Fury paint, Fortuna paint, the Razor Fortuna paint, and again, lifetime insurance as well. Then we have subscriber exclusive offers. So you have these tankards. I'm going to cough real quick. Hold on. You got these tankards, right, for $4. The 2054 Temp Fate tankard, $4. But this was discussed in another episode whenever the subscriber flare came out. Last, the Ships of Fortune, and then we'll do ship upgrades specials. But the Ships of Fortune, these are available now in the Pledge store. So there's 19 of them. Basically everything you saw in the Fortuna pack, but I'm going to go through these very, very quickly. So the 400i is in the Pledge store. 600i Touring. The A2 Hercules. It's a phenomenal bomber. The C2 Hercules, the Fury LX, the Fury MX, the Hammerhead, the M2 Hercules, the Mercury, the Razor EX, the Razor LX, the Redeemer, Vanguard Harbinger, Vanguard Hoplite, Vanguard Sentinel, and Vanguard Warden. So there are your 19 ships. And on special upgrade offers, you have the Crusader C2 Hercules and the Crusader Mercury. There you go. So I'm going through this really quick. You can probably hear the tempo in my voice. Most of this is kind of old news. If you're listening on Friday, a week later, right? So again, this was 9 days ago. It's information you probably already know. So sharing my screen for the Q&A of the banner contest. I'm not going to go through all the details, just showing you and telling you where you can find it. So if what I said interested you, you got that creative juice, you know the best place in the verse to hang a banner, and you know you want to put your org or your face on this banner, you can go to Star Citizen Spectrum in the forum categories general, and it's one of, if not the latest article dropped by Freyja. So there you go. Alrighty, like I said, we're moving. Squadron 42 gave their monthly report. No, we're not going to go line by line. It's more of teams leaving this effort and moving over to Star Citizen. I think that's the general theme. Yes, they're making movement on the last bit of polishing. The letter from the chairman mentions some fun stuff about what's coming up for Squadron 42 for episodes 2, episodes 3, and what we can expect in the next couple years. But the monthly report, there was nothing for me that was groundbreaking, earth-shattering, that needed to take up time on this podcast. So it's here. Read it. Enjoy the information. We'll come back to it in April, and we'll go line by line there in April. All right, Inside Star Citizen. So Inside Star Citizen went over the character customizer, and it was beards. I am so happy that they have beards into the game, but they also have all the hairstyles, amazing makeup and details to the skin quality and shapes. For me, one of the main takeaways are that's what they're calling anchor points. So if you want like high cheekbones or a straight jawline, you can modify it to the like pixel on how high or how straight you want, or angular you want that jawline. Everything on the face has an anchor point. You can basically stretch or you can condense. It is a very intuitive design, and honestly, it's not. I was afraid that it was going to be encumbering. It was going to be almost like a barrier to entry whenever you get into the game, but it looks very user friendly. Now I'll have to get into it and play with it to see if it truly is. But when you go in here and you watch this Inside Star Citizen video, I think you'll get the same impression. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm excited about this in 323. I'm going to put a beard on my face. I don't know what I want to do with the top of my hair though. Like, I don't know. I don't want to make me in the verse. I think that's kind of boring. But I'll try to I don't know, put some flash or flare to my character. So, what are you going to be doing with your character? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Any crazy ideas? But they're also later on in like 323.x, they'll throw in piercings and tattoos, and that'll be a whole nother conversation on what direction people take their character. So, that was a really good video to watch. I think also 15 minutes. Some good information there. Okay, letter from the chairman. Okay, this is how I want to present letter from the chairman. The first like 3/4 of this is the status of the game. So if you read the monthly reports, if you listen to Beyond the Verse podcast, a lot of this you already know, right? They talk about the importance of 323 since the horrific 318 launch. It goes through persistent entity streaming, talks about CitizenCon and all the fun stuff that happened. But what I wanted to do is go even beyond what's currently happening in 2024. So they go into what's Squadron 42, the upcoming CitizenCon. There's a couple of takeaways at this very end that I will read. Okay. Here we go. So again, this is 3/4 of the way down. I'm just going to read this to y'all and then we'll move on to XenoThreat. To the article. One of the key milestones of human achievement in the lore of Star Citizen is, quote, first jump day, end quote, when legendary human astrophysicist and pilot Nick Croshaw discovered and navigated the first jump point on 10th April 2271 and became the first human to visit a planetary system beyond Sol. Eventually, that system was named Croshaw in his honor. His journey was described as, quote, the jump that changed the course of humanity, end quote, and led to the starfaring future we depict in Star Citizen and Squadron 42. You might wonder why I'm telling you this story. Well, a little ahead of the historic date of April 10th, we had our own first jump day celebration on Star Citizen's tech preview channel this weekend. For this test, our progress on server meshing and the replication layer technology, we opened our first functioning jump gates and allowed players to test traveling between our two systems for the first time in our history. Players were able to travel between Stanton and Pyro via wormholes, with each system streaming in and out seamlessly. For those of you interested, our Versus own Nick Croshaw honor goes to an Evocati member called Mr. Trash, who we believe was the first in the community to successfully jump. During the test, it is worth highlighting that we also achieved 350 concurrent players in a single shard, a replication layer with 2 connected servers, setting a new record for concurrent players in a single instance in Star Citizen. After many hard years of work towards a goal many thought was impossible, we are on the cusp of delivering one of the final pieces of technology that will enable a connected, shared universe that thousands of people can experience together at the same time. And then they go through a quote, and they end with the following. As we set our sights on the year ahead, the team remains focused and committed to ushering the community into uncharted territories with the release of Pyro and Star Citizen Alpha 4.0. I cannot stress how much this is an inflection point, as it will allow many more people to play together, but also to seamlessly travel to different star systems. All of this points towards 2024 being our biggest and best year yet in the universe of Star Citizen, but Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 is not our final destination, and with that I have more exciting news to share. As we revealed at CitizenCon with Squadron 42 achieving the feature complete milestone, we are now able to bring features developed for Squadron 42 to the persistent universe at an accelerated rate. As part of this, towards the end of last year, we decided to reorganize the Star Citizen and Squadron 42 teams to be more integrated, to facilitate bringing several years' worth of feature work and polish to Star Citizen, and finally set our sail out to Star Citizen's finish line. The rest of this I want to preface. They're going to mention Star Citizen 1.0, which is live. And I just want to reiterate, they are not committing to Star Citizen 1.0 live anytime soon. And believe it or not, I want to temper expectations. Usually I'm the white knight. Usually I'm the one that's like, hey, I can't wait for this to come out like tomorrow. Star Citizen 1.0 is not close to being ready, so just stand by. To the article. While we recognize that there is no definitive finish line in an online MMO, and that we will always be adding new features and content for many, many years to come, Star Citizen 1.0 is what we consider the features and content set to represent, quote, commercial, end quote, release. This means that the game is welcoming to new players, it's stable, and it's polished with enough gameplay and content to engage players continuously. In other words, it is no longer alpha or early access. Much like we planned out Squadron 42's drive to feature complete and the upcoming content complete status, we spent significant time looking at what Star Citizen 1.0 means and what it would take to get there. A couple more data points, a couple more quotes. Let's go to the very end. The power community. So again, I don't know, I'm trying to temper that expectation. So they have a finish line in mind. That's basically what this end is talking about, right? It's when it's ready, it'll be Star Citizen 1.0. It's got to have all the tools. It's got to be deliverable. We don't have Pyro yet. We don't have server meshing or replication layer live yet. And when that does happen, they've got to go back in and like polish everything like they're doing for Squadron 42. I think unfortunately that's just the reality of where we're at. So there you go. And I want to end quoting Chris Roberts, the power of community. The driving force behind our success is our extended team, each and every one of you. Together, we have built a community that not only plays a crucial role in our development, but also embodies our shared passion for the Star Citizen universe. It is you who has propelled us forward. Without your passion, your unwillingness to test, to be undeterred by bugs and crashes, preach, to be vocal with your thoughts and stamina for the long and windy road, there would be no Star Citizen or CIG. You were there for the iconic helmet flip and the opening of the hangar doors for the first time in Alpha 0.8. Together we explored the vast expanse of the persistent universe for the first time in Alpha 2.0, and you were on board for the inaugural planetary landing in Alpha 3.0. And soon we will be leaving the Stanton system as we venture into the lawless wastelands of the Pyro system in Alpha 4.0 thanks to server meshing. And beyond this, Star Citizen 1.0 twinkles on the horizon. The future has never been so bright, and I couldn't be happier taking this journey with all of you. Chris Roberts. It's a long letter, and again, I encourage you to go and check this out yourself. Again, RSI's website under comlink, and it's one of the latest articles, but letter from the chairman. So read it. It's a lot of status updates, like where we are currently at, and that's why I skimmed over most of it. But I think the sentiment was really important to share. I think knowing that we're headed towards a finish line is always nice to remind ourselves that somewhere down the road, soon, trademark, this will be released. All right, hot and heavy. We're not even halfway done yet. XenoThreat Phase 1 dropped, and they're calling it Overdrive Initiative. Now, this is new. This is new for this year. This wasn't Phase 1 of last year's XenoThreat, which was about 11 months ago. So this was new. If you go to the bunkers and you have a delivery mission, right? You probably have noticed in those bunkers, or Merc mission, you've probably noticed in those bunkers these LCD screens, these flat screen monitors that are scattered throughout the entire building. This is that event, right? This is what utilizes that event. And so if you want to know the details of like how to plan for it, how to execute, last night we had a 2-hour org night mission with 24 of Sole Provision members, and we broke up into 3 different fire teams, and we took on this objective. So I had already completed 5 out of 5. We'll get into that here in a second. So I was just going back to help other people in the org to catch up. But you drop from bunker to bunker, and you're obtaining information on this impending XenoThreat incursion. So you're gaining intel, right? As you're gaining intel, you're getting attacked from XenoThreat. You're trying to prevent the servers from overheating and blowing up. But it's a very phenomenal PvE event, a cooperative event. I mean, again, 24 of us got together. Even though we were in 3 different fire teams, we all ended up on the same server, so it was kind of fun crossing paths. But we all worked together against sometimes a pretty difficult enemy AI in order to get this intel. So we'll talk about maybe the strategy here in a couple seconds, but here's the article. I am sharing it for those on video. They're calling Phase 1 Overdrive Initiative. Okay. Calling all pilots. Urgent. Urgent assistance required. Overdrive Initiative. XenoThreat is putting our system and its people in peril yet again, and we can't fight them alone. Join the CDF for a multi-week series of missions to play your part in foiling the most diabolical threat to Stanton yet. Over the following weeks, volunteers will be tasked with capturing intel, targeting key insurgents, countering strike forces, and more, all in the pursuit of victory. Due to the severity of the situation, this was also a huge surprise to the community. Due to the severity of the situation, Anvil Aerospace has released its next generation space superiority fighter on the civilian market. Stronger, faster, and harder hitting, the F-7C Hornet Mark II is a complete evolution of the storied Hornet medium fighter revered the Empire over. And those who prove themselves during this initiative will be awarded a complimentary upgrade from the F-7C to the military-exclusive F-7A for their service. And here on my screen you can see the beauty that is the F-7C Hornet Mark II. Okay. I initially wasn't going to buy this. The Hornet's not for me, right? So the F-7C Hornet Mark I, it's not that impressive. And I have an F-8C, not a weird flex. It's just I already have the F-8C, so I wasn't going to purchase or pursue the Mark II. I ended up buying it because of the potential upgrade to the F-7A. The only way to obtain the F-7A is by doing the XenoThreat mission. So I figured, why not? I'm already doing the XenoThreat missions, so I might as well get credits to upgrade to the F-7A. The only way you can get the F-7A. So I did buy it, and I am surprised by how much I like this ship. Right? So first off, it's more proof that you can watch show notes and read show notes and be closely tied to the development of Star Citizen and not have a clue that the F-7C Mark II was being developed. Well, not that it wasn't being developed, but it was going to release as soon as it did. There were leaks. I already told you that on this podcast you will never hear me talk about leaks. So I had heard murmurings about the potential release of this ship, but I never trust those, and you'll never hear a leak from me. But it was really awesome to see it come out. It's a great ship. The sound effects on this are amazing. So the acceleration and deceleration was incredible to witness and to hear. So it's a very, very fun ship to fly. And just again, if you're looking at the photo that I'm showing you now, the nose, it doesn't come with a nose turret, and it doesn't come with the top turret that you're seeing in the picture. Actually, the top turret is gutted out, and you can actually put a box inside of that compartment in this current moment. And again, you don't have a nose turret, you just have the 2 side turrets on the F-7C Hornet Mark II. The F-7A will have all the bells and whistles. Let's get into the lore. Quick little blurb. Incoming communication. Quote, attention volunteers. The CDF has intercepted comms suggesting an imminent XenoThreat attack on Stanton. With approval from the UEE Navy, the CDF has launched the Overdrive Initiative, a volunteer force tasked with investigating the terrorist activities and countering them where possible. Welcome to the team. To play your part, accept the Overdrive Initiative contract in your mobiGlas. Missions will update as the threat evolves, so stay alert. Civilian Defense Force Liaison, Rowena Dooley. When this came out on Friday morning, I did jump in and see if I could get my feet wet and engage with this mission. And it was kind of an ongoing issue getting the priority mission. A couple ways around that. If you are having issues finding the priority mission in your mobiGlas, go to an orbital marker. There's something about being at a known point, like an orbital marker, that like resets your mobiGlas. Don't know what it is, don't know about the tech, reason, or anything, but I can be on Seraphim Station and have very little in my mobiGlas. But when I get to orbital marker, I think it's 1, that's like right above Crusader. The moment I get to orbital marker 1, my mobiGlas is full with all the missions, to include priority. So recommend you doing that. And then there's some information here. It gets into the F-7C Mark II. I'll go ahead and read it now. Authorized for civilian use, the next generation of space superiority is here. The Mark II refines Anvil's tried and true Hornet formula to better combat the ever-growing threat to humanity with improved weapons, defense, and maneuverability. To ensure the future safety of UEE space, all F-7C owners who play their part during the Overdrive Initiative will receive a complimentary upgrade to the F-7A, a military exclusive that hits even harder with additional turrets and missiles. Secure your Anvil's F-7C Hornet Mark II now and repel the XenoThreat menace. So, I already discussed all that. I think we're good to go there. All right, here we go. The Overdrive Initiative. It is a series of connected missions leading up to the explosive XenoThreat global event. Over the next few weeks, regular new content will task brave pilots with supporting the Civilian Defense Force as it battles the growing terrorist threat to the system. The first mission, called Intel Raid, is available now in the contract manager of your mobiGlas. More will be added over the coming weeks as the threat develops, each with a unique challenge. For more information, visit the Overdrive Initiative FAQ, which we'll go to next on Spectrum. In support of the ongoing event, one of Squadron 42's most iconic ships, and here we go again, it talks about the F-7C Mark II, yada, yada, yada. All right, current mission. Good lord. Naval Intelligence has located numerous XenoThreat cells already operating in Stanton, preparing and scouting for the impending attack. The CDF needs you to locate and neutralize these groups and recover all remaining intel. Open your mobiGlas and accept the Overdrive Initiative Intel Raid mission to get started. So I think now's a good time to talk about like overall strategy, as I'm getting pinged on Discord. Let me get out of this real quick. Boom. All right. So as you see in the image above, there is an individual, like a player, who has like a Tiger Claw, one of the blue thumb drives, standing at the laptop or the computer system in the server room of a bunker. And that's step one. I mean, after you, of course, land at the bunker, you destroy the turrets, you get inside the bunker and kill all enemy, which that civilian is considered an enemy. That was like holding us up whenever we first did this last Friday. There's like a civilian in like black clothes, but this individual works for XenoThreat. He's just an engineer, right? So go ahead and kill him, stab him, whatever you want to do. He is going to have a Tiger Claw on him. So if you come without one, that engineer, that civilian has one on their persons. And it's most of the time, you have to open their inventory, then you have to open their chest, or you have to open their pants, and you'll find it in one of those compartments. All right, so kill everybody in there. Take a thumb drive, whether it's a Tiger Claw or one that you found on the engineer. Go to the server room, and when you insert this thumb drive into the computer, the event starts. Okay. You really only need one person in the server room, and then I would recommend 2 people on the bottom floor of the bunker and then 2 people on the top floor of the bunker. I would have them rotating that floor, one clockwise and one counterclockwise. Their objective is to look at the monitors, these LCD screens that are scattered throughout. And once one of those screens has a blue pop-up with a bunch of information on it, but it's very obvious, it's a blue pop-up, you're going to stop and you're going to call out the server number and the PIN code. So if you see it, you walk up to it and you say, server 572. That tells this thumb drive operator, we'll call him Tiger Claw, the Tiger Claw operator, that tells them which server to go to input this 4-digit code. You're on a timer. If you don't do it fast enough, the server will overheat and disrupt, and it'll stop your upload, and you only have so many misses. So you say server 572, and they locate it. They say, Roger, server 572, ready for PIN. At the very bottom of the blue screen, you'll have a 4-digit PIN. It will say 1234. And then once the Tiger Claw operator puts in 1234, then you're good to go. Rinse and repeat. While this is happening, the spawn closets, or elevators, I call them spawn closets because that's what they technically are, they will open up and have enemy. So XenoThreat will come out. You've got some XenoThreat that are in light armor, medium armor, heavy armor. This is your one chance to get that design armor. So if you find one with heavy armor, you want to loot it and you want to take that armor. There's a lot of mediums out there. There's obviously a lot of lights out there. But take them out, rinse and repeat, go. You have to do... usually it's 2 uploads. The harder they get, you can go up to 4 uploads. I think the hardest one I did was a 4 upload one. But you've got to do this mission 5 times. And you'll see a counter. Once you're complete, it'll say complete 1 out of 5. You've got to get 5 out of 5 to the point where I think the tracker will say 6 out of 5 because you've accepted a 6th mission, but you only need to complete 5. So once you're there, you're good to go for phase 1. You're receiving credit for having completed phase 1 of XenoThreat on your path to getting the F7A upgrade. So there you go. Listen to Orgnite 12, which was last night. You're going to hear 2 hours worth of strategy and execution, if that's something that interests you. Beyond the Stella Fortuna ships that hit the pledge store, this event also drop ships into the pledge store. You've got 5 of them: the Buccaneer, the Corsair, the F7C Hornet Mark II, there you go, the Gladius, and the Redeemer, with a special upgrade of the Drake Corsair War Bond upgrade. So there you go. Let's just go straight into the FAQ. This is from Niku, from the community team. Let's just go straight to the questions. What is this event all about? I'm not going to read that answer. Will I be able to join the mission series late and still participate? Yes. You have until the final phase starts ahead of Invictus launch week to join the Overdrive initiative and still be eligible for the free F7A Mark II token upgrade. What happens to my Veterans Day cosmetic upgrade kit? We are very happy to share that for those of you who previously acquired the F7A Veterans Day cosmetic upgrade kit, you will be given a full F7A Hornet Mark I for free. This will be delivered to you during this year's Invictus launch week. Enjoy. Question: will you run this event again in the future? Answer: XenoThreat has a nasty habit of returning its stance, so it's always possible that the CDF will need your help again. Question: can I acquire multiple F7A Mark IIs? Answer: you can acquire 1 upgrade token per account, which will remain on your account, allowing you to upgrade your F7C Mark II to an F7A Mark II whenever you choose for free. I'm going to take a second and drink because I'm already losing my voice. Excuse me. Okay, back at it. Question: what do I have to do to get the F7A token upgrade? By completing all of the Overdrive missions, you will automatically receive a free token upgrade in your account, and we will send you an email with more information. Question: do I need an F7C Mark I or F7C Mark II to use the F7A Mark II upgrade? Upon completion of the event, you will be rewarded with the free upgrade token, whether you have the F7C Mark II or not. That's important. However, to use the upgrade token, you will need to have a Hornet F7C Mark II in your hangar. Is the F7A upgrade permanent? Yes. Are there any other rewards for completing the event? On top of the free F7A Mark II upgrade token, you will also be granted an F7A Mark II rental for 3 days. And if you have any more questions, you can ask. Okay. Man, we still have a lot to cover. Here is the page for the F7 Hornet Mark II. Pictures, a little bit of lore behind it, what you're getting with the kit. But I want to bring up the F7A Hornet Mark II. This is why I personally am doing XenoThreat, and this is why I'm doing or purchased the F7C Mark II. So here's a picture of the F7A Hornet Mark II. It looks sexy. You can see the nose turret is armed. You can see that the top is armed. I'm just going to read real quick. The authorized mil-spec upgrade. XenoThreat has returned, and the stakes have never been higher. So for the first time in history, the UEE Navy has approved the military-exclusive F7A Hornet Mark II for civilian use. Hitting harder than the already devastating F7C, thanks to additional turrets and missiles, the F7A is a no-compromise fighter, outfitted for the most dangerous combat encounters. However, such a focused war machine can't be operated just by anybody. To gain approval, play your part in the Overdrive initiative, a civilian defense force operation to wipe out XenoThreat terrorists before they can assault Stanton. Upon completion, the UEE Navy will grant all F7C Mark II owners a complimentary upgrade to the F7A Mark II. I'm going to show you all the video. I think this is a very, very well done video, but it's their commercial for the Hornet Mark II. It has very like Top Gun 1980s vibes. So without further ado. So like I said, 1980s Top Gun vibes. There was also that scene in that video that showed the space cows again, whatever the hell they're being called. So getting close. Actually, speaking of which, there were also social media drops all throughout last week, Friday and Saturday. Really in Inside Star Citizen as well. At the end of Inside Star Citizen, Jared shows a picture on his phone with like birds, like pterodactyl looking things. So life in the verse. You know, you've heard it here on Beyond the Verse on the show notes, or not show notes, but the developer notes that they're working on like plants and animals around the verse. And I mean, there you go. We're starting to see a lot more of them. Well, on Saturday morning, Star Citizen Socials also posted a quick little like 10-second GIF where somebody's walking through a cave, throws a chem light, and you see like the eyes of a creature growl, or they growl, and you see the eyes of the creature kind of back away into the darkness of the cave. So we're starting to see flora and fauna inside of the verse. Super exciting. But that was also thrown into this Hornet Mark II commercial. So then it gets into a bunch of very beautiful photos. I'm really doing this for those of you on video. But here's a picture of the F7C Hornet Mark II being used as a cargo. Like it has space for two cargo boxes in that top turret that's gutted out. So you can see them moving. I don't know why. you can't get to them. So you can see right now that they're EVAing out in space, getting the boxes inside of that little area or that space. Be it known that when you're in your hangar, you can't actually get up to it. Or at least I haven't found a way to get up to it to easily take off those boxes. Yeah. So I don't don't know what that's happening. I don't know why that's happening. So here's another picture of the F7A military might. More pictures, more information about the Overdrive initiative, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Oh, a bunch of details here about its general systems, propulsion, weapons, if that interests you. But here is your F7A Hornet Mark II technical data. Man, pilot-controlled weapons, 2 size 4s, 2 size 3s. I mean, really 4 size 3s. The missile rack hardpoints, 2 size 4s. This thing is a freaking beast. I love that paint job. It's like that black digital camo. Looks sick. Looking forward to it. Cool. Standalone options. Let's talk about those real quick, as we love talking about prices here on Beyond the Verse. So standalone options, if you're concierge, I am sharing my screen, yes. If you're concierge, the War Bond is the F7C Hornet Mark II with the Iron Scale paint, $160. And then if you're not concierge, $160 will just get you the F7C Hornet on War Bond. And off of War Bond, $175. So there you go. You can also just get the paints for yourself if you want to add more paints to your hangar. Awesome. Moving on. We're just now to this week. This week in Star Citizen. I'm going hot and heavy. Here we go. Whew. Happy Monday, everyone. Last week, the Civilian Defense Force put an urgent call out to all citizens to help beat back another XenoThreat incursion. Volunteer for the event. Yada yada. St. Patrick's Day, Stella Fortuna still going on. Yada yada. In other news, the upcoming 3.23 patch is currently in the hands of our Evocati testers. Shout out. We'll be looking at those notes here in a couple of seconds on what they're actually testing. And then just this week in Star Citizen, we already went through the details. Let's go. We do have questions, so if you watched last week's character customizer in Inside Star Citizen, questions are now being fielded for Star Citizen Live character customizer. They're doing a Q&A, of course, but by the time you listen to this, it'll be too late because Star Citizen Live is already being recorded or will be live whenever we get off this podcast. So there you go. Lore Makers, community questions. I'm just going to read you the questions. You can... Actually, I'm not even going to do that. Hold on. I'm not even going to do that. I'm not going to read the questions. There's a couple of interesting tidbits here. I don't think they're all interesting. The categories are MISC and Xi'an collaboration, Office of Executive Services, is there any more lore on the Mirai, death of a spaceman, its impact on the universe, the Pyro system reduced in size, which, spoiler alert, it was. People's Alliance area of influence, why does Crusader specialize weapons of mass destruction, what was supposed to open at Stratus Mall in 2952, NPC voice acting diversity in the PU, the Alira Awards, and that is it. If anything I said interests you, go check it out. Again, RSI's website, comlink, under the Spectrum Dispatch, Lore Makers, community questions. Here are the patch notes. So right now, this is 2 days ago, so like March 20th, this was in the hands of the EPTU, and they are testing Alpha 3.23. It's not everything in 3.23, but here's what they are testing. So stability, obviously this is the replication layer and server meshing that they're testing out. So again, the main focus is stability. The full character customizer revamp, EVA, the new loot screen, new visors, new lenses, backpack reloading, ammo repooling, dynamic crosshair, physical shopping UI, and server crash recovery. So it's a pretty hefty EPTU. I am not Evocati, so I have not tested it, so I don't have feedback on it. But the moment it gets into the hands of the PTU, I'm going to try it out. Can't wait. Cannot wait for it. Roadmap Roundup. This one has a little bit of a bummer. I am kind of a little disappointed on this Roadmap Roundup, so I'll just go straight into it. The unique item recovery. After careful review, our team has concluded that this feature would benefit from additional development time. Therefore, we're updating its card on release view accordingly. We expect this feature to return to the roadmap very soon, and in the meantime, item banks remain on track for Alpha 3.23 and will remain in place. That kind of sucks, right? Because like you have a lot of subscriber flair that you're getting for as many months that you've been a subscriber. You also have items that you've purchased through the pledge store, like the Paladin helmets, right? Like those are phenomenal looking helmets. Goes great with the Soul Provision or uniform. But none of us use, at least nobody I know, actually use that gear. Because once you die, like let's say you're flying around and you fly into an invisible asteroid and you blow up, you lose all of your subscription gear and there's no way to get it back. They don't offer character resets anymore the way they used to. So you don't do it. You don't waste your subscriber or your pledge store items in the game right now. Kind of sucks, right? So that was supposed to come in Alpha 3.23, and it still might at some point, like 3.23.x, but we're not going to be getting it when Alpha 3.23 first comes out. A little disappointing there. The following features have passed their final review, therefore we are changing their status to committed on release view for the Alpha 3.23.0 update. So you will be getting these for 3.23. So you will be getting the new character customizer, and we will be getting reputation hostility. Just quickly, I'm going to read the hostility piece because I think that's important. Updating the reputation system so that players can affect their long-term standing with in-game organizations via means outside of missions, such as reduction of reputation for killing a member of that faction. AI belonging to certain factions will react differently based on their reputation with you. Being an ally provides the player benefits, such as more generous friendly fire thresholds and providing medical aid. Being an enemy will mean harsher friendly fire thresholds and may result in an attack on sight. Lawful organizations will not attack on sight as long as they're in a monitored zone, whereas unlawful factions will attack on sight no matter what. This is the foundation which allows players to become allies with in-world criminal factions and enables places like Grimhex to enforce their own law. Very awesome. Can't wait for that. And that's gonna be important in Pyro, because Pyro is a gang infested system, right? So it's gonna be really important. Probably a huge game loop. Last, the dynamic crosshair. We will be getting dynamic crosshairs in 3.23.0. Combat helmets now support the dynamic crosshair, which allows for quicker target acquisition in close quarter situations. Alrighty, we're finally to our last topic. It is Inside Star Citizen, to and fro with cargo. This is a very, very important Inside Star Citizen. It is, for me, it's the best, it's the biggest quality of life improvement. It's how you handle hangars. It's how you handle your cargo and inventory. It's how you call up ships within ships, right? So calling up an RSI links to fit inside of your Phoenix without making it a 30 to 45 minute game loop. This is going to be incredible. And decorating and inviting your friends over to hang out in your hangar. Like, this is going to be it. I can't wait for you to see this if you haven't already, but we'll pause it probably not as frequent as we normally do, because this is a long episode, but we will pause it and we will address things as they come up. But you will see new interfaces. You will see an ASOP terminal that is now inside of your hangar, so you don't have to leave the hangar to call up ships. Freaking phenomenal. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Enjoy it, everybody.
Cargo sits at the very heart of the non-combat Star Citizen experience. And as it continues to evolve in the upcoming Alpha 3.23 and beyond, its next major evolution is less about the places you'll go and more about the ones you'll start and come back to. Now, hangars, whether they're persistent, instanced, personal, or staging, make up the next frontier of cargo gameplay. And we went to Chad and his team for an early look at where they're going and how they're progressing. Let's find out more.
So yeah, we've had a couple ISCs before to talk about the new cargo and hangars features coming, but now that we're here and about to release things, we want to talk a bit about how that impacts your play experience, even if you don't care at all about cargo. So let's start with persistent hangars. What are they and what does that mean? So a persistent hangar is an instance hangar that is going to be assigned to you whenever you select your home location when logging into the game for the first time for a patch. When that happens, what we do is we determine the largest ship that you have and then entitle to you a persistent hangar that's of the size needed to facilitate that ship. Whenever you go into that hangar into the game, that hangar at your home location is always your hangar, and you'll be able to use it like your home. You'll be able to keep things in the hangar, you'll be able to leave things around, you can invite friends in, you can treat it like your own little oasis. So let's talk about for these personal hangars, how do you actually get into them?
Please proceed to site landing bay.
You can make a request via ATC for landing. And when we do that, we'll check to see if you have any personal hangars entitled to you. You'll be able to enter in using largely the same methodology that you do now, land, and then you can just hang out in there. As far as what can you actually do with your personal hangar and what kinds of things can you decorate with it, what we're going to do is allow you to call anything in your inventory up via that freight elevator. You can pick it up off the freight elevator either with your hands or using the tractor beam and just strew it about your location however you pick.
Also in the hangars, you'll notice several new kiosks. We have the freight elevator kiosk, which has a brand new UI and inventory system to deal with large volumes of cargo.
You're going to have on the left-hand side a section that is showing the contents of the platform itself. And on the right-hand side, similar inventory layout with all your armor and weapons and items.
And then you decide what you want to spawn in the freight elevator. The freight elevator then comes up, and then you can start doing like loading and unloading of various cargo into your ship and so on.
If you're considerate about how you're loading things and you're trying to optimize your loading times, it'll give you a lot of power as far as, for example, making sure that certain kinds of things are front-loaded on the platform to make your multi-crew loading as streamlined as possible. And anything that's in your inventory, you're going to be able to call up. Some things you might have to put into an inventory container box. We're talking 8, 16, 24, even 32 SU size container boxes that you can put large items in. Now you can raise that up on the platform, including in collections, transfer that very quickly onto your ship, and then take them to another location. In your personal hangar, you'll also have access to several other kiosks, starting with the item bank.
Which are another form of kiosk, which you could almost consider like a small freight elevator in a way, in that you can retrieve personal items such as clothing, armor, and weapons.
Because the item that's being delivered will be delivered in a tray that's in the same machine. So you interact that kind of like you interact with a loot box and you get that out. So no other player can actually physically get anything from your local inventory.
And these item banks can be found not just within the hangars, but also the wider location, such as your hubs and other key areas of a location to retrieve your personal items.
Since you can't interact with your inventory anymore at any given time, it means like we need to have enough item banks around each location so you don't block each other from accessing a terminal, right?
It's just a quicker way to get a quick gun or a few meta pins or your armor without having to load it up from the freight elevator. And the last kiosk that I want to talk about is the ASOP terminal,
which we have positioned in the hangar so you can request your ships from within the hangar and not just the spaceport.
So they will still remain in the spaceport. So if you don't have a personal hangar in your location, you can request your ship also from there.
What we're doing is we're changing the way that the ships spawn in the game.
You can now request your ships from within the hangar and they will appear to you, but they won't just come out of thin air. What happens is the whole of the floor will open up.
You get this like amazing view of the hangar, the lights dim, the doors open.
And the landing platform will be rising up towards you and your ship will be there.
We try to balance it in a way that it doesn't take too much time for you, but also that it feels like it has the right weight to it, but also you don't have to wait for it too long.
So now you have a seamless transition and a realistic way of storing your ships away.
Additionally, you can do clever things like call up a smaller vehicle, such as a ground vehicle.
There it is.
And then call up a larger vehicle. Then you'll have access to your ground vehicles without having to go to another location.
Yes.
You'll be able to call
There
up
it is.
multiple ships and maybe have one person fly off with one ship, call another one, have another person in your party fly up with another ship.
That's awesome.
Or you can just call up a ship, change your mind, and then call up a different ship without having to leave or anything like that. It gives you a lot of flexibility. And I can already tell what some of you are thinking right now. We're not going to let the system like eat your body and store it into the inventory or anything like that. We'll make sure to account for that such that if there's a blocking change that happens, we'll stop the process, go back up to the default state, and then tell the player about the issue so that they can account for it. If you do want to jump into the platform just before it closes and fall to your death, you can fall to your death if you want to.
So this is really cool, and we're really happy to get this in. It's been discussed for some years now, and it's been a very tricky thing to fit in, and certain tech's required to be able to do it. You'd be able to have this hangar your own space and call your own ships and do a lot more within the hangar now.
Now that we're adding all of this new facility to the hangars in the game, allowing them to be persistent, adding these freight elevators, adding this ship platform, there's a lot of more things that we have to have in these hangars for them to be useful for what we're adding.
So the hangar sizes had to increase quite a bit. We did not want to do that originally in the beginning, but soon when we did prototyping, we figured out that not all the hangars, as I said, like the low-tech hangars in particular, are quite old by this point. Not all of them were to the same standards or metrics. So we figured that with the landing pad now going down, you had this gap for like quite some time before the doors close. So there was a very narrow walkway for the player sometimes. So we had to rejig some things and made it actually larger.
So the large and XL have had significant size changes. So the XL is about 20% larger, and the large is about 30% larger.
So squeezing a Carrack into a hangar isn't going to be a thing anymore, or a C2 or a Caterpillar. It's going to be a lot easier to get those ships into a hangar. So that'll be glorious when that happens.
So certain ships that were a little tight can now fit a lot more easily.
As
So
they
you
show in
don't feel
Carrack.
like your wings almost scratch the walls of it. So it feels a bit more natural and better to the play experience to land in your hangar now.
The medium is the same, but taller. And the small has not been changed. But we have classified ships to fit into the medium that were once classified as small. So hopefully a much better player experience than there has been before. And it's been interesting to take the design of an elevator and the door and extrapolate that across multiple sizes. So in some cases you can kind of widen out the door and use the same shapes, and in some cases you need to think really about how those shapes work, and sometimes they don't work within a small door, for example, when it did work in a much wider door. So we've had to play around with that and keep them looking consistent with each other, but also adapt those shapes to work for each size.
So this is an actualization of a long-term goal for this entire cargo career, to make the whole thing feel more real. It means that the whole experience is going to allow for manual loading. It'll also feel more rewarding because it'll give you more interesting choices to make throughout the process. It'll make multi-crewing a more interesting and useful experience. It's going to just make the whole experience a more skill-intensive and interesting and tactile.
Yeah, just real quick on that, especially with like Soul Provision Org Nights, we do a lot of pre-mission planning. We'll outfit an A2 or we'll outfit, a Hammerhead beforehand, and unfortunately, like we do it Thursday nights, we'll be preloading on Wednesday night because of just what it takes in order to do that right now. So for the multi-crewing ships or for like organizations, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. Can't wait.
Another thing that we've talked about is automated loading in the games. This allows you to still do commodity trading without needing to actually move the boxes yourself. It will be an option in the commodity terminal. Whenever you go and you pick the destination inventory, you'll be confronted with several options. One is the location inventory. The next will be all your ships that are at the location. If you choose a ship, you'll have the option to have it be automatically unloaded or loaded for you, of course, with an added cost. The ship has to be stored to allow for the transfer, and it will be time locked while that transfer is occurring. Different locations in the game will have different amounts of time. Places that are more optimized for trade are going to allow for faster transfer. You'll be able to still do the trading. You just have to wait a little bit and pay a bit more money, so your profits won't be quite as good in that case. Once the automatic loading process is finished, you can just go to the ASOP terminal in the hangar, access it, raise it, and go off, and you're on your way. If you care about cargo, this is going to be transformational. But even if you're not interested in cargo at all, it's still a foundational change for the game that fundamentally changes principles about inventory, physicality, and your play experience.
The work's ongoing. We're nearly there. I think the team's done a great job on this. It's been tricky to get it working as it should be.
It's a big milestone for the game that's been years in the making and coming. While I'm here to talk about it today, there's been a large number of teams across the entire company that have helped. Everybody from art, animation, VFX, through to all of the gameplay teams, engine teams. We've had a huge effort from Austin, Montreal, Los Angeles, Frankfurt, Manchester. It's been a big endeavor. So I want to thank everyone that's been helping to see this vision through, and I'm really looking forward to getting this into your hands so that you can play with it.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that the days of big ships scraping by the edges of player hangars are almost behind us. That you'll soon be able to spawn your ships and have them rise up directly into these newly expanded hangars. And that the freight elevators and item banks within will herald a new future of physicalized cargo loading that should have long-reaching ramifications for life in the verse. And of course, while everything you see on ISC is always an early work in progress, because of the dramatic and far-reaching effects these systems will have on all life in the verse, you can expect this work will continue to iterate and evolve from what you've just seen between now and its upcoming targeted release in Alpha 323. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
Love it. And there is like an additional scene. Jared holds up his phone with a green screen on it, and people are taking it and making memes as directed. That's the point of him doing that. And so I took Rickroll. Like, have you ever been Rickrolled before? I took an image of him singing and superimposed that on the screen. That was a good time to Rickroll my community. Oh man, that was a long episode. Loved every second of it though, honestly. I really I enjoyed last week's 50th anniversary, or 1 year anniversary, 50th episode with Conf. But a lot of news took place that we didn't cover. So playing catch up this week, and again next week I will be out in Seattle on work. So unless I record on my phone, consolidate and push out a podcast using iPhone quality, which that's not me. It's not my brand. I want to give you all good quality. You'll probably not hear episode 52 until 2 weeks from now. But you have a lot to catch up on. If this is your first episode, we have 50 others that touch on community. We touch on content creators, CIG developers. We have a great lineup from the last 50 episodes. Well, yes, you've been listening to Beyond the Verse Star Citizen podcast. If you want to get involved in the conversation with your questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, we love those. You can email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com or interacting with our Spotify Q&A and polls at the end of each episode over on Spotify. Join our in-game organization Soul Provision by applying at www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. You can watch this podcast on video over at YouTube at /@BTV_cast. We are also on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, even Blue Sky at BTV_cast. Once again, thank you for joining us. We hope this finds you well, and until next time, safe travels as you traverse Beyond the Verse. Take care, everybody.